As she faded into the forest mist, Lyran felt something stir within him. Hope, fierce and undeniable. Their love, once forbidden and fragile, had become destiny. And the child growing inside him was more than a secret heir. It was the key to a future where alphas and omegas could stand together. Not as enemies, not as rulers and servants, but as equals. Kale lowered his forehead to Lyran's, the storm of his emotions finally quieting into calm. "We are going to change the world," he promised. Lyran smiled through tears. Together, and under the silver glow of the moon, their hearts beat as one. A love forbidden, a child prophesied, and a destiny that could not be broken. "Stay close," Kale murmured, his golden eyes locked onto Riven's. "Don't wander too far. I can't promise I'll let anyone else take you." Riven's lips trembled. I won't." And at that moment, beneath the silver glow of the moon and the whispering leaves of the forest, Riven realized something undeniable. This wasn't just attraction or desire. It was fate. The alpha before him, strong, intoxicating, perfect, had claimed a part of his soul he didn't even know was his to give. From that night onward, nothing would ever be the same. The forest that had once felt like a sanctuary now seemed distant and cold. Riven walked alone, the soft rustle of leaves beneath his feet doing little to soothe the storm inside him. Rumors had begun to reach him, whispers from other Omegas in the village, servants who claimed they had seen Kale with another. A fleeting glance at a shadowy figure in the market, a murmured comment in the tavern. Each word scraped against his heart like a jagged blade. Riven shook his head, trying to banish the thoughts. Can't be true. He had felt the bond between them, that unspoken pull, the weight of Kale's gaze when it lingered on him, the rare, fleeting moments of tenderness that made Riven's soul ache. Kale couldn't betray him. And yet, the alpha's mysterious absences gnawed at him. Nights spent apart, Kale returning later than usual, excuses that never quite satisfied the knot of unease tightening in Riven's chest. Each disappearance left a hollow ache, a silent fear he refused to voice. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the distant mountains, painting the sky in fiery gold and violet, Riven sat by the river, staring at his reflection in the rippling water. His fingers brushed his chest where his heartbeat thundered like a war drum. What if I'm wrong? The thought was unbearable. The idea that Kale, the alpha who had claimed him, the one who had ignited a fire in his soul, could be unfaithful seemed impossible. And yet, the evidence of absence whispered louder than his faith. Footsteps broke through his spiraling thoughts. He turned, hope rising instinctively. Kale. But it was only a messenger from the alpha's camp, delivering a sealed letter. Riven's hands trembled as he unfolded it. The message was curt, professional, no warmth, no hint of explanation, only orders and duties. The words were practical, but the absence of intimacy spoke volumes. Riven's heart clenched. Doubt had taken root. Have I misread everything? That night, he lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment, every look, every word. He could feel the pull of the bond, the alpha's scent lingering faintly on his pillow. Yet his mind whispered a dangerous question. Does he even care as I do? Sleep eluded him, replaced by a growing ache in his chest, the kind only love tempered by uncertainty could bring. The bond had promised fate, but Riven was beginning to learn that destiny could be tangled with deception, and even the strongest alpha could remain a mystery too deep to unravel. The night was still, the forest bathed in silver moonlight. Riven's pulse thrummed in his chest, every nerve alive with anticipation and dread. He had tried to push away the lingering doubts, tried to convince himself that Kale's absences didn't matter, but the pull of the alpha remained irresistible. Kale appeared silently, emerging from the shadows like he belonged there. And yet, somehow, he belonged to Riven even more. The alpha's golden eyes locked onto him, intense, consuming, a fire that Riven couldn't resist. Before Riven could think, Kale stepped closer. His hand brushed against Riven's arm, featherlight, yet it carried the weight of command, of claim, of something deeper. Riven's knees went weak, Do you trust me? Kale's voice was low, a growl that seemed to echo inside Riven's chest. Riven swallowed hard. I want to. Kale's fingers traced the line of Riven's jaw, down his neck, brushing the pulse that raced like wildfire beneath his skin. Every touch left a shiver, a spark, a longing that Riven couldn't name. Not yet. Fear and desire tangled together, making it impossible to distinguish where one ended and the other began. You're mine? Kale whispered, pressing their foreheads together. Do you understand? Riven's breath caught. Yes, he admitted, voice trembling. Ido. The moment stretched, suspended in the quiet night. Kale's hands moved with a careful urgency, gentle yet claiming, leaving marks not of pain but of ownership. Riven's heart raced, part exhilarated, part terrified. This was love, yes, but it was forbidden, dangerous, and every stolen touch could have consequences neither dared face. I can't, Riven started, but Kale silenced him with a soft, searing kiss, a declaration that left Riven both trembling and wanting more. They broke apart briefly, eyes locking, breaths mingling, hearts beating in sync. For a fleeting moment, the world outside the forest ceased to exist. Only the bond, only the fire between them, remained. But even as Riven surrendered to the touch that had changed everything, a small, gnawing fear settled in his chest. Each secret encounter strengthened their connection, but it also sharpened the danger. One wrong move, one discovery, and the fragile trust they clung to could shatter completely. The forbidden touch had awakened something undeniable. Desire, love, and fear were now intertwined, binding them together in a way that neither duty nor destiny could easily unravel. And as the moonlight bathed them in silver, Riven realized that surrendering to Kale's touch wasn't just passion. It was the beginning of a bond that could consume them both. Riven had learned to read the subtle signs. The way Kale's scent lingered in places it shouldn't, the hushed whispers of servants, the alpha's distant gaze that sometimes drifted far beyond Riven's reach. He had pushed the unease aside, clinging to the bond they shared, believing in the love he had felt, believing that Kale's absences could be explained. He had been wrong. The truth came crashing down like a storm he couldn't escape. It was late, the palace corridors quiet except for the soft clatter of Riven's own footsteps. He had been searching for Kale, longing for his presence, when he stumbled upon a door left slightly ajar. The soft glow of candlelight spilled into the hall. Curiosity, tinged with hope, pushed him forward. And then he saw them, Kale, and another Omega. The sight struck him dumb. Kale's golden eyes, warm and tender just nights before, were now fixed on someone else. Someone smaller, delicate, laughing in a way that had once been Riven's alone. Their hands brushed, fingers intertwining with a familiarity that cut deeper than any blade. Riven's knees gave way. He pressed a trembling hand to his mouth, trying to stifle the rising sob that threatened to escape. His heart shattered in slow, jagged pieces, each one tearing him apart. No, it can't be true. He wouldn't, but the evidence was undeniable. Every touch, every glance, every laugh confirmed the cruel reality. Kale had chosen another. The alpha he had adored, the one who had awakened something fierce and beautiful in him, had betrayed him. Riven stumbled backward, the world tilting around him. Tears blurred his vision. The bond they shared, the stolen moments, the secret touches, all felt like lies now, illusions that had lulled him into trusting a love that had never truly been his. Riven! Kale's voice called from the room, but the sound only made the ache worse. It was a voice of ownership, of intimacy, of betrayal. Riven fled. He didn't look back. The palace corridors seemed endless, echoing his heartbreak with every step. His chest ached, his lungs burned, and his soul felt hollowed by the realization that the alpha he had loved, the perfect, intoxicating, untouchable alpha, had left him for someone else. When he finally collapsed into his chambers, shaking and spent, Riven pressed his face into the pillow, whispering through tears, "I loved you, I trusted you, and you left me." The night stretched on, cold and unrelenting. The moon cast pale light through the windows, illuminating the emptiness Kale had left behind. Riven's heart, once full of hope and devotion, now ached with the sting of betrayal. For the first time, he understood the cruel truth of love. Sometimes, even the strongest bond could break, and leave nothing but shadows in its place. Riven paced the quiet chambers of his small room, hands trembling as he pressed them to his abdomen. The realization had struck him hours ago, like a lightning bolt he could not escape. He was pregnant. A child. Kale's child. The truth should have brought joy, yet it felt like a weight pressing down on his chest, mixing hope with a sharp, bitter ache. The alpha he had loved, the one who had claimed him, whose touch had ignited a fire in his soul, had betrayed him. And now, a tiny life grew inside him, a living reminder of both their love and their destruction. Riven sank to the floor, wrapping his arms around himself. Fear coursed through him. What will I do? How could I raise this child alone? The palace was unforgiving, and Kale had chosen another. Yet, even in his despair, he felt the faint, undeniable stir of life beneath his hands. A small kick, soft but insistent, and Riven's heart clenched in a way that was both painful and precious. The child didn't care for betrayal, for absence, or for shattered hearts. The child only existed, a bond between him and Kale, undeniable and permanent. Riven's thoughts were a storm of conflicting emotions. Anger flared first, hot and consuming. How could he leave me? How could he leave us? Then came fear, gnawing and sharp, whispering of the dangers that awaited him and the child if the truth ever reached the palace. And beneath it all, a small spark of longing remained, the memory of Kale's touch, the warmth of his presence, the way he had made Riven feel seen, cherished and alive. Riven pressed a trembling hand to his heart. I have to survive. I have to protect this child. And I have to figure out what this means for me. For us now. The secret he carried was more than a pregnancy. It was a legacy of love and betrayal, hope and despair intertwined. And as he looked out the window at the pale moonlight, he knew one thing for certain. The world would never allow him to hide forever. But for now, the child inside him was his alone to protect. A fragile, growing promise of what could have been, and what might yet be. The moment Riven had dreaded for weeks finally arrived. Kale stood in the doorway of his chambers, tall and imposing as ever, yet the golden light of the sunset softened his edges. For a heartbeat, Riven almost believed the past weeks had been a nightmare. That Kale would reach out, take him in his arms, and make everything right. But reality was crueler. Kale, Riven's voice trembled, equal parts anger and fear. You left me. You left us. Kale's expression tightened. His lips pressed into a thin line, his gaze flickering with something Riven couldn't read. Guilt? Regret? Shame? Or all three? I had no choice, Kale said, his voice low, strained. You don't understand, the throne, the duties, the rules. I couldn't risk you or the child. Riven's hands clenched into fists at his sides. You couldn't risk me? Or you couldn't risk yourself? The words tore out of him before he could stop them. You left me alone with your child. Do you have any idea what that feels like? What I've gone through? Kale took a step forward, his eyes softening, but Riven recoiled instinctively.
Riven?
No. Riven snapped, voice breaking. Don't justify this. Nothing you say excuses leaving me behind. I've carried your child without you, without your protection, without your love. And you left me. Kale's jaw tightened. I did what I thought was best. I feared losing you both. The crown, my father, everything. I thought distance would keep you safe. Riven laughed bitterly, a hollow sound that echoed through the room. Safe? Safe is being here with me. Safe is fighting beside me. Not abandoning me to face the world alone while you hide behind excuses. Silence fell, heavy and suffocating. Kale's hand hovered, almost reaching for Riven, but he didn't touch him. Riven's chest heaved, tears threatening, anger still burning, but beneath it, something else stirred. the faintest spark of longing. "You should have trusted me," Kale said, voice raw. "I should have fought for you, for us, not run." Riven's eyes met Kale's, storm and fire swirling together. "I loved you, Kale. I still do. But love isn't enough to excuse leaving someone behind. Especially your mate, especially your child. You don't get to claim that love and walk away." For a long moment, neither spoke. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the floor. The bond between them, once a source of warmth and connection, now pulsed with tension, desire, grief, and rage intertwined. Finally, Kale bowed his head, voice barely above a whisper. "I failed you. I failed us. I will make it right. Somehow. I swear." Riven stared at him, torn. The anger and grief burned, but the bond, that ancient, unbreakable pull, still lingered, faint yet undeniable. He didn't know if he could forgive Kale, not yet. But one thing was certain. Their story was far from over, and neither of them would walk away from it again. The first morning after the confrontation with Kale, Riven woke to the faint light of dawn filtering through his window. His belly, now rounding with the unmistakable signs of life within, pressed against him like a constant reminder of the responsibility he could no longer ignore. The child he carried was not just a product of love and betrayal. It was a life he alone had the power to protect. He sat on the edge of his bed, hands cradling his stomach, letting the weight of his determination settle over him. "I can't rely on anyone. Not Kale. Not the palace. Not fate." The anger he had felt earlier now sharpened into resolve. Each beat of his heart, each small flutter from the child within, reminded him that he would survive. Not for Kale, not for the Alpha's promises, but for the life growing inside him. Riven began to plan. Small steps at first, securing food, creating a hidden corner in the city where he could rest without fear, finding allies who wouldn't betray him. He practiced defensive movements in secret, learning to defend himself in ways he never thought an Omega could. Every action strengthened him. Every decision reminded him that he was more than the fragile, dependent version of himself Kale had once known. Yet, even as his mind focused on strategy, a part of him still ached. Kale's absence left an emptiness, a longing that had nothing to do with weakness and everything to do with the bond they had shared. Riven didn't trust Kale anymore. He refused to. But the pull, the memory of those stolen touches and whispered promises, lingered like a shadow. He clenched his fists, letting the fire of determination rise. "I won't be a victim," he whispered to the child inside him. "I will protect you. I will survive. I will build a life where you are safe, even if I have to do it alone." And in that moment, Riven felt it. A quiet, steadfast power awakening within him. The Omega who had once depended on Kale's strength was gone. In his place stood a mother determined to face any danger, any threat, any betrayal, to ensure the child he carried would see the light of day. The world outside might still be cruel, and Kale's shadow might loom large, but Riven had discovered something no one could take away: his own strength. And with it, the first glimmer of hope for a future built on his own terms. A future where he and his child could survive, thrive, and perhaps one day love again. Kale rode through the quiet forest, the wind tugging at his cloak, the distant cries of the city fading behind him. Each beat of his heart echoed the weight of his failure. The Omega he had left behind, the one he had claimed, the one who carried his child, had survived without him. And the realization hit him like a dagger. He had abandoned not only his mate but a part of his own heart. He had thought his absence would protect them, thought distance and duty would shield Riven from the dangers of the throne. Yet, with every step, Kale felt the cold truth gnawing at him. His choices had left scars he might never be able to heal. Memories flooded him. Riven's trembling hands, the warmth of his smile, the softness of his voice, the way he had trusted Kale even when Kale had faltered. And now that trust had been tested to its breaking point. Kale's chest tightened at the thought, guilt twisting like a living thing inside him. "I can't lose them. Not after everything," he thought, gripping the reins tightly. But pride fought alongside love, sharp and unyielding. How could he face Riven? How could he expect forgiveness after leaving him alone, carrying Kale's child, facing danger and heartbreak all by himself? Kale's wolf growled low in his chest, hungry and restless, sensing the tension, the urgency, the raw need for redemption. Arriving at the outskirts of the village, Kale dismounted, moving silently through the shadows toward the place he knew Riven had made his sanctuary. Each step was measured, cautious, but his resolve was unwavering. He needed to see them, to apologize, to protect them, to reclaim what he had forsaken. When he finally saw Riven, hands cradling the rounded belly that carried their child, Kale froze. The Omega's eyes were tired but fierce, glowing with a determination Kale had never fully appreciated before. He realized painfully that Riven had grown stronger in his absence. Stronger, braver, more unyielding. Kale's throat tightened. "Riven," he whispered, voice rough with emotion. I was wrong. I left you. I thought I was protecting you, but all I did was abandon you." Riven's gaze didn't waver. "You did," he said simply. "But you're here now. That counts for something if you truly want it to." Kale swallowed hard. His pride wanted to bow, to fight, to claim forgiveness by force. But something deeper, something he had never fully understood until now, softened him. He had left, but he had returned. He carried not only his regret but the desperate need to make amends, to protect, to love, and to never leave them again. The moon rose high above them, silver light spilling over the clearing, bathing Kale, Riven, and the child within in quiet luminescence. For the first time in weeks, Kale allowed himself to hope that redemption, though difficult, was still possible, and that the bond they shared could survive even the deepest betrayal. "I will protect you," Kale promised, voice low, sincere, trembling. "Both of you, I swear it." Riven's hands lingered on his belly, and for a fleeting moment, Kale felt the weight of the child, their child, and the infinite possibilities of love reborn, forgiveness earned, and a future they could shape together. The Alpha had returned. The regrets would linger, but so would the chance to make things right. The palace walls gleamed under the first light of dawn, a symbol of power and oppression. A kingdom built on rules that sought to dictate love, loyalty, and life itself. Yet beyond its marble corridors and gilded halls, Kale moved with purpose, his mind set on reclaiming what he had abandoned. He had returned with one goal: to bring Riven back into his arms, to protect the child that carried a piece of his soul. But Kale's heart wavered as he neared the secret hideaway where Riven had fled. He knew it wouldn't be easy. The Omega had grown stronger in his absence, forged resilience from fear and betrayal. The door to the small cottage creaked as Kale stepped inside, golden eyes scanning the room. Riven stood near the window, hands resting protectively on his rounded belly. The soft light of morning framed him like a guardian of his own destiny. His eyes met Kale's, wary, unyielding, and sharp. "Kale?" Riven's voice was quiet, almost wary, yet laced with the authority of someone who had survived and grown in strength. "You shouldn't be here." Kale's lips pressed into a thin line. "I had to see you. I had to." "You had to." Riven's laugh was bitter, shaking. "You left me. You left your mate, the child you created, and thought coming back would fix everything." The words struck Kale like a blade. He had prepared to plead, to beg forgiveness, but Riven's anger, his fierce independence, forced Kale to pause. For the first time, he realized that reclaiming Riven wouldn't be a matter of possession or desire. It would be a choice, and one he might not be worthy of. I know I can't undo the past," Kale admitted, voice low, raw. "But I won't leave you again. Not now, not ever. I swear it." Riven's gaze softened just slightly, but he didn't step forward. "Words are easy. Actions, that's another matter." Outside, the distant echoes of the kingdom's unrest drifted through the air. Rival alphas prowled the shadows, whispering threats, coveting power, and keeping secrets that could shatter Riven's fragile safety. Every step Kale took toward the Omega was fraught with danger, not just from others, but from the fragile trust between them. One misstep, one wrong move, and all would be lost. Kale took a careful breath. Riven, I know I don't deserve your trust yet, but I'll earn it. I'll prove it. Let me stay at least for tonight. Let me watch over you, our child. Riven's hands clenched over his belly, protective, fierce. You think it's that simple? You think I can just forget the nights I spent alone, the fear I carried, the pain I felt? No, Kale admitted. I don't expect you to forget. I just want a chance to make it right. The air between them was electric, charged with longing, regret, and a tension that neither could deny. Kale stepped closer, slow, careful, letting every movement convey what his words could not. Riven flinched, but his body betrayed him. A subtle shift, a breath caught, a pulse quickened. Riven? Kale murmured, voice thick with need and sorrow. I can't protect you if you push me away. Let me stay. Let me fight for you. Riven's eyes narrowed, a storm of emotion swirling within them. And if I let you, what then? How can I trust that this isn't just another excuse, another betrayal? Kale's golden eyes softened, the weight of guilt and longing pressing down on him. I can't change what I did, but I can choose you every day, every moment, until the end. Please, trust me enough to let me try. A tense silence followed, broken only by the soft, insistent movements of the child within Riven. It was as if the unborn life itself demanded peace, demanded a fragile chance at unity between its parents. Riven's hands lingered on his belly, feeling the heartbeat beneath his touch. Slowly, he looked up at Kale, searching his face for truth, for sincerity, for the alpha he had once loved, the one who had abandoned him, and yet still stirred something deep inside. Finally, he spoke, voice quiet but firm. You will earn it, every day.
No excuses.
No more lies. Do you understand? Kale's lips curved into a faint, tense smile. Yes, every day. I will prove it. Riven allowed the tiniest nod. It was not forgiveness, not yet. It was a fragile acknowledgement that Kale had returned, that despite the dangers outside and the kingdom plotting against them, a chance remained. And in that moment, amid fear, longing, and the weight of a dangerous choice, the bond between them, tested, strained, and fragile, began to grow again. Because sometimes love, even broken and battered, demanded a risk worth taking. The night air was thick with tension, but inside the small, hidden cottage, a new life was about to begin. Riven gripped the edge of the wooden table, sweat dampening his brow, breaths coming in sharp, desperate gasps. Each contraction carried both pain and purpose, the promise of a future forged from love, sacrifice, and endurance. Kale knelt beside him, golden eyes shining with fear, awe, and the raw intensity of a father seeing the life he had once abandoned. His hand rested on Riven's, fingers intertwined, grounding both of them in the moment. You're stronger than I ever imagined, Kale murmured, voice low, trembling. You've carried us through this. Riven's lips quivered in a weak smile. I had to. For us, for the child. The labor stretched on, hours filled with pain, tears, and the rhythmic cadence of hope. Outside, the wind howled, rattling the wooden walls like a warning from the world beyond. But inside, only the bond between them, fragile yet unbroken, held sway. Finally, a cry split the air. A tiny, urgent wail, fierce and insistent, announcing the arrival of new life. Riven gasped, exhaustion and relief flooding through him as Kale gently lifted the infant into his arms. Golden eyes met Riven's, brimming with tears and wonder. It's perfect, Kale whispered, pressing a careful kiss to the child's soft cheek. A piece of both of us, our heart, our bond. Riven reached out, placing a trembling hand on the newborn's tiny chest. The warmth, the softness, the undeniable life within their child grounded him in a way nothing else ever could. We made it, he whispered, voice breaking. We survived. Kale's gaze softened, shifting from the child to Riven. And now we face the future together. No more running, no more fear. I won't let anything take this from us again. Riven allowed himself to believe, if only for a moment. The pain of betrayal, the nights of doubt, the fear of loss. All of it still lingered, but it was tempered by the miracle in their arms. A living reminder that even amidst heartbreak, hope could be born. The three of them, Alpha, Omega, and Child, formed a fragile circle. A family forged not only in love but in struggle, survival, and the courage to face the unknown. Outside, the moon rose high, casting silver light over the cottage, crowning them with quiet serenity. "The past can't be undone," Riven said softly, tracing a finger over the child's tiny hand. "But the future is ours, if we fight for it." Kale nodded, pressing a gentle kiss to Riven's temple. "Then we fight," he vowed, voice steady. Together. In that moment, the world outside, the kingdom, the shadows, the dangers, seemed distant. All that mattered was the life they had created, the bond they had reforged, and the promise that, come what may, their love and their child would endure. And for the first time in what felt like an eternity, both Kale and Riven allowed themselves to hope. Because love, even tested by betrayal, fear, and fate, could still prevail.